Welcome to the Blooming Wand podcast and YouTube channel, your home for grounded and intuitive spiritual guidance. I'm Emily O'Neill, evidential psychic medium, intuitive healer, and coach, and I'm here to guide you on a journey of self-reflection using the wisdom of the tarot. As the moon waxes and wanes, so do our own inner tides. And as a way to honor moon cycles and life cycles, on each full and new moon, I pull 3 cards which inspire an intention and affirmation to illuminate your path. Think of them as themes to guide you through coming days. So grab your journals, light a candle, and settle into the present moment. Let's delve into the enchanting archetypes of the tarot, uncovering the magic and messages they hold for all of us. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Full moon blessings, friends. I've pulled cards for this moon cycle, and we've got the Empress, we've got the Five of Wands, and we've got the Ace of Wands from the Modern Witch Tarot deck. A lot of fire energy with the Five of Wands and the Ace of Wands paired with that creative powerhouse of the Empress. So there's an interesting combination for us to dive in here on this full moon. So be sure to have a look at the cards to see what they awaken in you if you're listening on your podcast streaming service. Don't forget you can get them sent right to your email inbox by going to bloomingwand.com. Sign up for my newsletter. It's free. You get pics of the cards, information about them, other fun tidbits every full and new moon. Plus, it's a great way to engage with the Blooming Wand community, which is a wonderful community of people. So let's dive into our intention. Here we go. Our intention this moon cycle is to explore chaos as an agent of creativity, learning, and transformation. Here's your affirmation. Within the disorder that I might be feeling, I trust that patterns and meaning will emerge. So, have you ever felt like you're swimming in chaos? Maybe everything's up in the air and you're stuck in that messy middle or sacred middle phase, wondering if the pieces are ever going to fall into place. Trust me, I've been there more times than you can count. I bet you have too. So this moon cycle speaks directly to those turbulent times, and our full moon tarot reading has surfaced some powerful archetypes to guide us through. So let's explore what wisdom these cards hold for navigating life's chaos. Let's go. So what I want to do is first dive into each archetype as it stands on its own, and then I'm going to bring it together, and then we're going to talk about some ways to navigate the sacred middle. And you know I'm going to give you some journal prompts because I love journaling. I think it's such a wonderful self-care practice. I know that it has yielded much comfort to me and supported me in many wonderful ways. So I can't do an episode without adding in some journal prompts. And if you ever hear one that doesn't have them, that's rare. So let's start with the Empress. This Empress archetype. Nobody is sad to see the Empress when they get a tarot reading, and there's a reason why. The Empress brings her energy of abundance, fertility, and creative nurturing. She's about bringing things to life and helping them flourish, and she represents natural growth and creative potential. This archetype also speaks to abundance and fertility, but sometimes that very abundance that we yearn for can lead to overwhelm. So when ideas are sprouting everywhere, it can feel like a lush but overgrown garden. And I would also say that when ideas or feelings, and you're having a lot of them at one time, it can feel like a lot. Now, when I look at this card, I see a beautiful woman seated on a plush throne. She's gazing confidently at me. Her posture is relaxed and regal. She's surrounded by an abundant landscape of wheat fields and crystalline structures. The sign of Venus is at her feet, representing divine power and a potent creative energy. In terms of the Empress and this moon cycle's intention, the way that this archetype connects to maybe chaos and transformation, so that theme that from chaos comes creation, this phase, this Empress phase of that could look like the fertile beginning where ideas are just flowing abundantly, or emotions, and the exciting time when everything feels possible. You might feel like you're collecting inspiration from everywhere or being in a state of just like creative abundance, like it's just coming out of nowhere and you don't know where or why that's happening. It can also be this sort of sense of feeling like really pregnant with possibility. So you can feel something that's coming, you can feel things are moving and growing within you. Maybe you're not sure what they are, but you're just like, I feel like I'm about to have a burst of creative energy. You can feel ideas dancing around in your head or feelings flowing or emerging from your feeling and sensing self. And moving on to the next archetype, it contrasts quite a bit to the Empress archetype that we've been talking about. And this is the Five of Wands energy. The Five of Wands shows perhaps conflict or competition, but more than anything, a dynamic tension. In the modern Witch Tarot deck, to me, it suggests the kind of productive chaos that leads to innovation. It's like a brainstorming session that gets heated because everybody's passionate about their ideas. However, this archetype isn't just about external conflict, maybe with external forces. It can also be about the internal chaos of having multiple ideas or emotions competing for attention. And the way that I would describe this is imagine having several ideas, each championing a different creative direction, or maybe different emotions championing a different path forward. And you can see the potential, but it's challenging to weave the threads together. You don't know which ideas do you keep, which ones do you abandon, what feels right, what doesn't. Now, when I look at this card, I see five figures coming together to build something. The structure they're creating looks like it's about to take the shape of a five-pointed star. Everyone's trying to do their part, and no one person seems to be taking the lead. They appear to be collaborating and working things out as they go. Definitely a messy middle vibe. And the Five of Wands phase of transformation, or what they represent in terms of feeling like you're in that messy middle, it can feel like just that, the messy middle, the sacred middle, where everything is competing for attention, ideas, feelings, or otherwise. Having multiple exciting concepts, but not seeing how everything connects, feeling overwhelmed by your own creative fertility, and wrestling with different directions. The creative chaos that comes before breakthrough, that's what I've always felt the Five of Wands archetype represented. When I do readings for clients and I see this card, I know that they're probably in a little bit of an uncomfortable spot, but I'm always excited to see this archetype because I know that from chaos comes creation, that there's going to be a breakthrough, and that when we see this archetype in a reading, it often means we're just in that place where there's a lot going on and we're not quite sure how it's all going to come together, but it likely will. Because the Five of Wands represents the necessary struggle of sorting and combining ideas. It's part of the process, right? It's that feeling of like if you have too many tabs open on your computer or too many tabs open on your phone and you're like, whoa, there's a lot going on here. I need to close some of those tabs. Now, moving on to our third and final archetype, we've got the Ace of Wands. And the Ace of Wands comes in as, to me, like a pure creative potential or creative inspiration. It's sort of like, aha, here I come, I've got the answer. It's the spark that ignites new beginnings and passionate projects. It's the one wand to rule them all. In other words, it's the theme or pattern that brings everything all together. I associate this archetype with a moment of clarity, that divine spark that shows you how these seemingly desperate ideas or feelings can unite into something powerful. It's the aha moment when the pattern emerges from the chaos. Now, when I look at this card, I see a hand emerging from a cloud holding a wand that looks like a branch. Frankly, it looks like a branch. You think, oh, it's not like Gandalf's staff, but maybe kind of it is. I don't know. There's an orb of yellow light surrounding the hand, and in the background I can see a city, a river, and jagged mountaintops. And I frankly see this wand as it's coming forward to direct the energy, to initiate change and bring ideas into reality. So wands, if we think about whatever mystical figures waving a wand, what are they doing? They're directing energy, they're directing their intention, they're making something happen. And the Ace of Wands is very much in alignment with that vibe. So the Ace of Wands phase of transformation can feel like the moment when clarity emerges from chaos, seeing how disparate elements can weave together. So disparate elements, ideas, feelings are going to weave together to bring you forward on your path. It's about finding the thread that connects everything, or it's the spark of, yeah, this is the way forward. It's also the excitement of beginning to execute your vision. And that's a really exciting phase of growth, transformation, learning, and coming out of the sort of messy middle or sacred middle. Now, when we put the Empress, the Five of Wands, and the Ace of Wands together, and we look at the story that they tell, they suggest a theme of tension leading to growth. And here's a few ways that you can embrace this idea of tension, discomfort, chaos leading to growth. Trust that your multiple ideas, even when they feel scattered, are part of a larger creative process. Understand that feeling overwhelmed by possibilities is a sign of fertility, not failure. Recognize that sometimes we need to let our ideas fight it out, so to speak, before the true direction emerges, and have faith that clarity will come. And the Ace of Wands will light the way forward. I always like to say when I see the Ace of Wands, which I used to pull it quite a bit in my own personal readings, I would see it all the time. And it's sort of like the staff that illuminates your way when you're kind of in the dark. And the affirmation I say to myself when this card appears is, I am the fire that lights my way. Maybe I don't know all the answers. Maybe I don't know how everything's going to turn out. Maybe I don't even have a plan. But every step I take and with every breath, the path gets illuminated moment by moment by moment. Maybe we aren't supposed to know the whole big picture yet. Maybe we need to dance in the dark a little bit with our inner fire and with our staff lit and see what happens, see how it goes. Maybe we need to bump into some walls. Maybe we need to fall down. Maybe we need to experience some challenge in order to learn and grow and have that aha moment. And it's essentially an invitation to use conflict as a catalyst for creativity. It's an invitation to find fulfillment in challenging yourself and to let chaos nurture new ideas. It's an invitation to embrace the parts that are messy in this process because all will be well. Now, the sequence of these cards reminds me of that period where we're collecting ideas, letting them bump against each other, and trusting that the right combination of ideas will emerge eventually. It's a reminder that breakthrough concepts often need time to collide with each other, and that sometimes contrasting concepts help us to understand what our actual theme is. So sometimes we have ideas that are in contrast or emotions that are very different from each other, and it's like, well, how these are opposites, these are different, and can I hold space for things that are in contrast in any given moment? But it's when that happens, when you recognize like, oh, I'm having two different ideas at the same time or two very different emotions at the same time. But that kind of tension usually leads to a whole new innovative idea that maybe you would have never thought of, and it can pull you into a direction that you didn't expect. So and it's like repeating that, it's like that breakthrough concepts need to collide with other, sometimes contrasting concepts before your idea can be fully formed. So basically, chaos is full of potential. And this belief can be especially reassuring when you're in that Five of Wands phase, feeling overwhelmed by your own creative abundance. And it's not a sign that something's wrong, it's a necessary part of the process. The chaos of multiple competing ideas is often what leads to the most innovative solutions. To sum it up, the Empress provides fertile ground for ideas. The Five of Wands represents the necessary conflict and competition of different possibilities. And the Ace of Wands shows the breakthrough. And I'd be curious to know how it's going in your world and which of these tarot archetypes resonates most with you right now. Drop a comment, email me at emily@bloomingwand.com. But I'll share with you that I feel like I'm definitely in the Five of Wands phase right now. I tend to feel this way during the winter. I kind of tuck in and I enter my dreaming phase, so to speak, where I let the ideas dance. I let the feelings dance. And is it always pleasant? No, because I feel like I kind of like lack direction or focus, but I've learned that sort of in this dance of the dreaming world where I let my ideas, my passions, and my desires just emerge and do what they will without any clear direction, that I learn a lot about myself. And I know eventually that the answer or the direction or the aha moment will come. And in a way, when we're in the messy middle, there's not a lot of action that we have to take. We just kind of have to notice and observe and allow. And when the moment of the sort of Ace of Wands moment comes, that's when we can act, right? So I kind of enjoy the not knowing a little bit because I know I don't actually have to do any heavy lifting yet, so to speak. I guess it's a different kind of heavy lifting. It's not that directive, like act, do, achieve. It's more of the difficulty comes in holding space for lots of different things and different emotions and not knowing how that's going to turn out. So, on that note, I thought it might be helpful to go over some ways that we can embrace the space between what is and what could be, aka the messy middle, the sacred middle, how we can like hold space for this with grace. Because wouldn't it be nice if we could embrace chaos rather than just endure it? So, one of the things we can do is shift our perspective and view chaos as transformation in process and notice what's being cleared away, look for emerging possibilities, and trust in natural cycles. So, we're no different than nature, right? We're no separate from the seasons. When the seasons shift, so do we. When the moon goes from waxing to waning, we shift and change too. So sometimes we can just allow those shifts to naturally occur without having to force everything. So nature doesn't force anything. So when we're in the messy middle, maybe we don't need to force anything. Easier said than done. I'm a person that likes to know and plan and have everything mapped out. So I understand that sort of embracing chaos isn't always the easiest thing to do, but I know probably the number one thing that helps me is when I look to nature and I'm like, oh, nature's kind of chaotic and nature doesn't force anything. And I think it was Thich Nhat Hanh that said nature, I don't know, somehow it doesn't rush, but everything gets done. So I like to kind of remember those words. And the other thing we can do is take aligned action, which means follow your intuitive pulls, stay flexible with plans, and document your insights and patterns, and think about what's not working for you right now. So I know when I'm in the messy middle, forcing doesn't work. And I have to intentionally tell myself, you're going to want to do that, but it's probably not going to be very helpful. The other thing that's helpful is journaling or documenting some of the things that are coming up for me. You know, I'm a huge proponent of journaling or writing things down. And I always tell people if you don't like journaling, send yourself voice memos and then listen to them after a couple of days. That can be really powerful, listening to your own voice talking to you about how you're feeling. Super, super helpful strategy. The other thing that we can do is we need to engage our self-support practices, which might be extra rest, enjoying simple comforts. This is a big one for me when I'm in the sort of sacred middle, is I just enjoy simple comforts like the food that I'm eating, the tea that I'm drinking, the coffee, having a bath. Listening to music is a big one for me, just sitting in a comfortable spot, turning on my favorite music and just relaxing and listening to the song and letting it move me in the moment. Obviously, I'm going to bring up time in nature. That always helps me is going on a walk or just stepping outside and breathing in the air, watching the birds. And one of my favorite things is watching the sky and the clouds, particularly here in the Pacific Northwest in November or in the winter. The sky is just this, it's constantly changing and moving and shifting. And as I gaze at it, I think that's me too. I'm evolving and changing too. Creative expression is always great as a self-support practice. So I'm like, put a song on and dance to it or draw for fun. But whatever you do, do it just because you want to. You don't have to put any pressure around it that people will see it or that you have to present it or that it needs to look a certain way. I really believe that creativity is a radical act these days, that people just sitting and making and doing whatever that is. Maybe it's cooking, maybe it's dance, maybe it's just reading your favorite poem aloud, or I like to draw. That's a thing that I enjoy very much. I enjoy writing poetry, reading poetry, but just engaging in it because you love it and it fills your cup. And with everything that's going on in the world, I think we're attached to our phones and technology, and we forget that we are creative beings and we can make and do things just because we want to. It doesn't have to be connected to capitalism. It can just be because we want to do it, and it invites a playfulness, which I think doesn't hurt ever. I love to be playful. It's one of my favorite things. I wouldn't be one to not go play outside or run around and play with like my nephews or whatever, but even my sisters and I are still playful and we're middle-aged women. And I think that that's been something that has been very uplifting for us is creative expression can come in so many ways, including playfulness and just enjoying the simple things in life. And leaning into that community connection, find people that you can have fun with or that you can talk about what's happening in your life with. Like, man, I'm really in this sacred middle space where I don't know what the heck is going on, and they'll probably share stories with you too, and that makes us feel less alone. And I think maybe I've said this already, but I'll say it again. Chaos often precedes a breakthrough. And your role when you're in that sacred middle is to stay grounded and open to change. Open heart, right? Open heart, open mind. And I feel like we're learning when we're in this messy middle, and that there's sort of this initial part where we encounter new information and it might create a temporary mental chaos. Like I have a new idea, I have maybe some new feelings coming up, and it's like, what the heck's all that about? And I think that we have a hard time with that sometimes because it disrupts old structures, knowledge structures, emotional structures, routines, or patterns. They start to get challenged, maybe either gently or maybe not so gently. And then we're like, whoa, what's going on here? But from that comes this period of learning, and we might have some cognitive dissonance emerging where different things are kind of challenging what we think or believe, and then we're like, but and we get into that period where we just want to reinforce what we already think and believe, but things are challenging it, and that can feel weird. But it's good to be challenged in that way because that's you're going to broaden your perspective and just maybe let some of those frameworks break down, let new connections form, because this is how we learn and grow as human beings. And I'm not saying that the learning process or the transformation process is always deeply uncomfortable, but it usually does involve some level of challenge or discomfort, um, because we are human beings and we have feelings and we do have internal structures that we've built to survive and get by. And that's fair enough. And if we're not going through life having those be challenged, I've never met anybody that was the case. So we know that this is just part of life. And yet that doesn't make it any easier to deal with, right? So when we're sort of breaching into that moment of, I guess you could call it our Ace of Wands moment, that's when complete paradigm shifts occur. And when identity and belief systems begin to reorganize and new ways of knowing emerge. It's sort of that aha moment. I can direct my energy. I have a clear understanding of needs, wants, desires, or my path forward now. And that feels pretty good most of the time, right? So there is this destabilization of existing knowledge that precedes the integration of new understanding. And that's what the Five of Wands is all about. You don't really see any one of those figures taking the lead or bossing another person around. They're working it out together. And I think it's really interesting. I don't know if you see it as much on the Five of Wands in the Modern Witch Tarot deck, but if you go to the Smith Waite deck, it's very clear that even amid this chaos of five people trying to do five different things, you see the five-pointed star start to emerge. So I'm like, that's really, really interesting. Now, I wanted to talk about the benefits of the sacred metal and just kind of go over, well, how could this be beneficial to me, to open us up to the possibility that it even is beneficial, right? Maybe some of you are thinking like, ew, I hate the messy middle. It's so uncomfortable. I just want to know what to do. I don't like this. Well, I can relate to that. I feel like that a lot. In fact, I'm kind of feeling that right now. The whole month of November and December have been a little unsettling to me for both personal and professional reasons. And I'm having to really practice what I preach, so to speak. So, some key benefits of the sacred middle include growth through discomfort. It builds resilience, it develops problem solving skills, and it forces us to adapt. It also leads to deeper self knowledge. It reveals hidden strengths, clarifies values, and shows us our true priorities. And what a gift that can be. It's also creative transformation. It opens us up to new perspectives, it sparks innovation, and it breaks down old patterns. And I know that sometimes old patterns can feel very comforting and comfortable, and we want to maybe hold on to them because it's what we know. But you can trust that when they shift and change that you will be okay. You might even feel better. In terms of the messy middle and spiritual development, it deepens our trust. It can build on our ability to surrender to what is as it is in any given moment, which I'll say that that is not giving up or just becoming complicit or not caring. It's being radically present. And the other thing that it does is just what I said, it increases our ability to be present and aware and to witness our personal experiences. And if we can do that for ourselves, we can do it for other people. So that's really cool. So the messy middle or sacred middle is challenging, but it's also where the most profound change can occur. So, to support your self care and spiritual practices, I came up with 5 journal prompts to support you when you're in the messy middle. So, get your journals out and jot these down. This will be very helpful. I'm sure in the transcript there'll be a chapter marker for these journal prompts too, so you can look at them that way. So, here's the first journal prompt. In this moment of uncertainty, what grounds you? What 3 practices can help you feel centered, and describe why these practices work for you? One of the reasons I wanted to talk about what grounds you is because that changes over time. So, what worked the last time you were in the messy middle might be different than what will work this time. So, just hold that gently. The second journal prompt is close your eyes and notice where you feel tension. What message might this tension carry, and what does it need? So I literally mean ask the tension, what message do you hold for me? And what do you need? So I always find the point of tension in my body. I close my eyes and I connect with it. And I say hello to it and I ask it, what messages do you have for me? And I just let that intuitively bubble up. And then I ask the tension, what do you need? And this can help you find out maybe ways to ground yourself, leading into the first journal prompt, and give you answers as to how you can support yourself right now. Now, this third one I love. If chaos were a season, which would it be? And what wisdom does that season offer about the cycles of change? I know what season chaos represents for me, and it's winter. And it's when I just dive into my dreaming world and I let the feelings and the ideas dance together. And it's really kind of chaotic, to be honest with you. But I know that with time or with spring, that clarity and that emergence of the knowing will come. So I'd be interested to know what season you feel represents chaos for you. I think that's just a really cool question. Now, name one small anchor that steadies you daily, and how can you strengthen this practice? And this is something I talk about with clients a lot, is like, what's one small thing you can do to ground and anchor your energy so that you can be present for what's happening within you? And how can you strengthen this practice if you're in a time that's particularly chaotic? For me, it's meditation and going on nature walks. And sometimes if I need to strengthen these practices so I feel more supportive, I'll meditate for a longer period of time or take a longer walk. But sometimes when I'm in a state of chaos, I actually let go of some of my practices and just go back to the simple 10 minutes quiet time alone. You don't have to do anything, no technology. And sometimes that's really helpful. The fifth journal prompt is this: what would it feel like to befriend this uncertainty rather than resist it? And write a dialogue with the unknown. So, if the unknown were personified, or if you could represent it in your mind's eye in whatever way that works for you, what would you say to the unknown? What would it say back to you? I feel like that's a really cool journal prompt. I haven't done this one yet myself. I'll probably do it soon. I haven't gotten to it yet, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. I feel like it's gonna help me out a lot. So here we go. We've got our intention and our affirmation. I'm going to loop back to it one last time so that you remember it as you do your journal prompts, so that you remember it as we move from full moon to new moon. So we've got 2 weeks to work with this intention and affirmation and see what it brings up for us. Don't forget to look at the cards and see which of the 3 archetypes you feel most drawn to right now. That can be really helpful to you in understanding where maybe you're at in relationship to this idea of from chaos comes creation. And there's one more thing I wanted to add into this sort of discussion and dialogue, and that's that the idea that from chaos comes creation is not new. There's a lot of people, the messy middle was coined by somebody recently. I can't remember his name. And the sacred middle is something that people have talked about for a long time. But in folklore and in mythology, the idea that from chaos comes creation, it has always been there. I'm particularly remembering from Greek and Roman mythology this is the case, but I know that it's the case in other areas of the world with their myths and their tales and their legends. So a fun way to engage with this could be to do a Google search and look up what myths support this idea or involve this idea from chaos comes creation. When I did the search, so much came up, and I'm going to see if my local library has any of the books or the tales in the library, but you can actually read a lot about them online too. So the idea that chaos is full of potential is as old as time. Doesn't matter who coined the phrase the messy middle or the sacred middle in modern times. It's an old concept, and we can trust. I think it gives me a sense of like trust and understanding to know that people from long ago worked with this idea, and it's not all that new. And that's comforting to me too. It's like, wow, that brings me a little bit of comfort. So let me loop back to our intention, which is to explore chaos as an agent of creativity, learning, and transformation. Here's your affirmation. Within disorder, I trust that patterns and meaning will emerge. So get those journals out. Take good care of yourselves. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Blooming Wand podcast and YouTube channel, or write a review. Send your feedback to me at emily@bloomingwand.com. Tell me what card you resonate with. Tell me how you feel about the idea from Chaos Comes Creation. You know I love to hear from you. And as always, I'll see you on the new moon.